For this video, we're going to be looking at one of my older projects here. This is my custom-powered Tyco Chattanooga. I built a whole tender drive from it from scratch using a coreless motor with a couple flywheels, a bunch of Athearn gears for the trucks, intermountain wheels, and a bunch of brass sheets soldered together, glued together, whatever was needed. Put a little headlight in the front with a constant lighting circuit. It's been running kind of sluggish lately, so it's definitely overdue for a tune-up. And some of you have been curious about exactly what the custom chassis looks like, so let's have a look in here. Start by taking out the drawbar screw. I can't remember if I soldered the headlight wires to the circuit or just made little plugs for them. I'm hoping I was smart and made plugs. Come on, here it goes. All right, get that separated. And I made it so the chassis mounts just using the original Tyco latches. So that makes it easy to remove. Now, was I smart? Yes, I was. And that is a relief. Take one out. I usually make these plugs using a piece of brass tube and then brass wire to fit inside of it. The headlight is glued into the tinder though, so I can at least separate the engine, but the tinder shell is staying on. So, here's what I made. Got the motor, a couple universals going to the gears, which are all Athearn. That is feeling a little bit stiff turning there. So I think this will just need some fresh oil and grease to keep it going. Just bring over my oil here. Drop in each of the bearings, as well as I can reach anyway. I'll do an extra one in there, just to be sure. Okay, now, as for the gears, I'll also oil the axles now. I don't think I made easy access for the gears, so I might just have to do whatever I can fit in there. They shouldn't be causing too much resistance anyway. Okay, I can get some oil into the gear there. That's good. And the other one. A little bit went into the teeth. I'll try again on the other side. There, that's better. And now the main gear. There's also a middle gear. Can I access that? No, I can't. Okay, well, that's only one gear in each truck. These coreless motors have really good quality bearings that shouldn't require any extra oil, so I'll just leave that alone. And working a little grease. Just hook up these clips to the motor terminals. Oh, and there's my constant lighting circuit. It's a series of diodes. Only the front headlight is constant. The rear is a 12 volt. For constant lighting, you have to use a 1.5 volt bulb. Okay, see how that's working first. And that's just fine. If you're wondering about those holes in the flywheels, that was to balance them. These aren't always perfect. So if you take a little material out of the heavy side, you can usually get them pretty well balanced. If you overdo it, you just take a little metal out of the other side until everything's all good. Let's get a little bit of grease in those gears. Again, you don't need much, just like in the other videos I've done tune-ups so far. The grease does a good job of spreading itself around. No need to overdo it. One of the nice things I've found about this lithium grease is that you can see exactly where it goes as it's running. So if you do need a little more, it's easy to see. Okay, run that in slowly. Okay, that's working its way in. So that looks like it's gone around most of the teeth, but I need just a little bit more. Like I said, I think I said this is, maybe I didn't say, but this is one of my first time, this is probably the first time I made a full custom chassis for anything. And I was working with, basically just a ruler and a cutting wheel and a couple drill bits. Really didn't have much to use for measuring and getting things perfect, so my gear mesh isn't quite perfect, but it's good enough to be smooth. That's looking pretty good now. That'll continue to run in as it goes around the track. And that's about all there is to do here. So, just looking around this for how I made it, you can see the frame here is, well, it's all painted, but this is all brass sheet that's been cut and soldered together. The trucks are also brass sheet. Inside of them, I used tubing to support the gears, as well as to keep them centered by using a larger piece of tubing on each side. The worms are held in place using some supports I built out of some sheet copper I just happened to have on hand at the time. And the truck supports are also made of copper, so that keeps it in place. The one in the back keeps it from tipping too far out of there for the universals to fall out of place, as that was happening when I first built it. There's also this piece that's taped down. It holds these headlight wires away from the flywheel. The coupler is just glued onto a little support I made, so nothing special there. And now I'll just give the wheels a quick cleaning. Just slightly touching my right void block to it. Here, wire touching a flywheel. I really do appreciate how easily these Intermountain wheels clean. They don't stick to dirt near as hard as some of the other wheels I've dealt with. Okay, before I reassemble that, also add a little bit of oil to the axles on the engine here. Yeah, that's looking pretty dry in there. I actually haven't oiled this since I built it, so it's definitely in need of some fresh stuff. Back at that time I was using 3-in-1 a lot, which can dry out pretty quickly actually, and isn't the best for model railroad use anyway. This stuff now should last a bit longer. Yep, that's feeling better already. Wheels are actually coasting now. I don't worry about the wheel treads of this one too much because I made it so the tender does all of the electrical pickup. The engine is just along for the ride. I'd say that's the best that's rolled in a long time. Also add a bit to the front axle here. I actually made the front truck on here from scratch because as Tyco delivered the Chattanoogas, they were only 080s. They had this whole huge long pilot on here, but no wheels underneath. It looked pretty awkward, so wanted to have that extra wheel set under there. And some of you may notice that this is more detailed than the traditional Chattanooga. I added a brass scale part here, as well as a nicer bell. I replaced all the original handrails, which the railings were just a piece of wire stuck into the front and then running back there with some little posts sticking out. I cut off those little posts, added actual stanchions and an appropriate piece of wire, as well as here. Coupler lift bar, the hose there. And I also added some wire detail here to improve the look of that. And that helps the appearance a lot. So now let's get this thing back together. Pull those through there. Since the diodes are all in the tender circuit here, I don't have to worry about the polarity of the wires themselves here. Just plug them in. It doesn't even matter. It'll work either way. Oh yeah, and I've got a bit of weight stuck inside of there to give it some traction. Keep the wires out of the way as much as I can. Spread the body. A little oil on my finger. Don't want that getting on the paint. Now, there, that's snapped in place. Put the drawbar in there. Now put the screw back on. Being careful not to drop it inside, because that's happened before and it's frustrating whenever it does. There, all reassembled. Since I had that oil on my finger, looks like I did get a couple little spots on there. I'd better wipe that off. Don't want to leave any oil behind. Oh yeah, I forgot. I kept the original Tyco handrails. I keep them for plugging my airbrush bottle. Never know what's going to be useful. Did I get any other oil on here? Doesn't look like it. All right, I think we're good to go. All right, got it on the track here. Let's see if it works as well as it did when I first built it. Headlight works. Well, there's still that little rubbing noise. I'll have to figure out what that is. Actually, it's going away. Maybe it just needs to run a bit. Nope, I need to figure out what that noise is. And it looks like I don't have the headlight connected firmly enough, so I'll have to check on that. But it is running a lot stronger now than it was before. So the fresh oil and grease did help. Well, I'll just figure out what that noise was and run the thing a bit more. Well, I have no idea what was making that noise. All I know is that I pulled the shell back off, just started moving a few things around here and there, and away the noise went. Seems to be working just fine now. We got the headlight firmly plugged in, so it's not going to be flickering anymore. I'd say this is running like new. It's nice and quiet, it's stronger, it's smoother. More reliable than before. Low speed control's never been especially great, just because of the gearing combined with the fairly low torque of the motor I used. So that's about as slow as I can get it going. Still not bad though, especially considering this was my first custom built chassis. It's running just as well in reverse. So there it is, my custom Tyco Chattanooga, all tuned up and ready to run again.